Hi, I'm Captain Larry Bell with Texas Fishing Tips, and this is your weekly fishing report.
Down here in Bray Cove, all the shoreline all around here. One thing that you have to pay attention to, we've had, a couple of cold fronts that came in that pretty significant, dropped our water temps down, a lot of wind blowing and everything like that, so it pushed a lot of water out of here. So a little bit of water has come back, not a tremendous amount, but that's something that you really need to pay attention to, especially down here in Bray. If you want to get back in the little back lakes, you don't want to get back all the way to Little Brundit, little back lake before you get into Little Brundit, this little back lake that's right back in here. Pay attention to those. When you fish those areas, you've got some nice deeper edges which come into play when all this water blows out of here. You got shallower water. So you're fishing your guts. You're fishing the edges. Find you a channel or a cut through. Fish that. There's been some fish that's held up on these areas here. Pushed all the way back into Little Brundit and all that area back there. You've got great structure back there to fish. A little bit of bait that's been working back in that area. Key baits that's been working really well have been burner shads, chicken of the sea, white ice, depending on what your water clarity is. The regular model in watermelon red and key lime have been good. Also, the Miradines or the soft dine, the smaller ones, have been really good in some of these areas as well, just because they've got a little bit bigger profile, a little shorter body weight, so it makes it it's very enticing for some of these fish, especially trout and the redfish that are back in some of these areas. Really work these areas. Another one that we have thrown in the last few days is the Corky Devil. Haven't pulled that out very much this winter so far, but I had it in the box and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna try this, and it pretty productive. Not bad at all. So it's another one that you can put on your list if that's something that you're wanting to throw, just to give a little bit different look, especially on this back side of this new moon as we're fixing to start hitting our transition days here in the next couple of days. Just be aware of those things there that you may want to check your bait size, your bait profile, colors as far as what the water clarity is in all these areas up in here. There's been some nice trout on the edges, grass edges. Bait's been few and far between, but there is a little bit there. A couple of tips for you on that. If you don't see bait flipping or you see just presence of bait, look for pelicans, brown pelicans hitting the water, or your ospreys. Ospreys are probably your most productive bait finder for you. If you don't see it, they'll hover. If you see one of those birds up there just hovering over that water, they're looking at bait because they see it really well. So that's another good indicator that you can use that you have bait working in the area. Just continue to work all these areas up and down this way. Work your outer edge. Like I say, pay attention to water temperature. You may want to wait just a little bit longer before you get back out on the water. We've kind of been shoving off around 8:30 just to kind of give that water temp an opportunity to warm back up because these areas up here have been pretty chilly. All this area down here, Spalding Bite area, again, these are one of my favorite areas to fish all this back in here. With again, this big front that pushed through in here this last weekend, it pushed a lot of water out of these areas here. So what happens is this area out front, this big flat area out here, it's got a bunch of scattered shell that's over it if you're not aware of that. There's some shell pad. They're up there a little bit closer to the shoreline. But all these drain mouths, they've got deeper guts that go in there and they go back a little ways. You can wade those back in there as long as you wade down the edges of them and don't go down the middle of them because some of them are like really super soft and you get stuck down in there and you don't want to do that. So just stay on the edges of them and work these. Work the mouths, work them back. If you don't find your fish in one of these, you're going to find them in another one. Just keep working them until you locate your fish. Again, key thing is remember, we don't have a whole lot of bait that's in our system right now. So if you see just a little bit of bait flipping, that's good. That's what you want to see. Just enough there that you'll know that's going to hold fish. So that's when the artificial game becomes really big because the lack of bait in there, when you're throwing something artificial in there, they like that. They like that a lot, and that makes your production of your fishing day go way up. So work these areas. Be patient with them. Take your time with them. It's not a pull up and wait 45 minutes to an hour and I don't catch anything, move on. Just continue to work this area. Do your diligence. Incorporate a major or minor and fish the whole thing through it. If you can get there 45 minutes before one of those time frames kick in, then work it for 3 hours. You'll be pleasantly surprised if you do the job in here and really work this area good. Around this edge all the way down toward the fingers of Carlos, You know, if you got a couple little shell pads that are out that way, and again, with the shallower water, you can wade out to these areas that typically is not able to fish if you're wading it. You have to usually fish it from the boat, but right now you can wade it. So all this area up and down the shoreline here, one thing that's been good for us has been the down south regular model in watermelon red has been good. White ice has been good. It's been pretty much money for that size right there. And then of course the burner shad, those big high pressure days. Those are one thing that you also want to consider too, is downsizing your bait on a big high pressure day. At least start small, and then the fish will dictate to you what they want. If they want it, if they're eating that, or if you're not getting a whole lot of bites on it, then just bump it up a little bit. But if you pay attention to what's going on, what the bait flipping is, what size that bait is, temperature of that water, and start with a little bit smaller bait, and the fish will talk to you and let you know as long as you're paying attention to it. You can work this outer edge out here. The fingers are Carlos. A lot of those reefs are exposed after this big blow that we had. So get in the guts and work the guts of those things in between that. Work the outer edges, the points of them where it's a little bit deeper there. Just pay attention to what your winds are doing. The tidal flow has been really important, especially up in here when that water starts to roll in or roll out. That bite continues to increase, and we've noticed production during that tidal flow, which is always a key thing, especially during the majors and minor and that moon sucking that water in or pushing that water out. So pay attention to these areas here. You can also, your corkies are still in play here. The water temps have been really cold, so that's a slow go. You're taking your time working all those baits in these deeper areas, in these guts, whether it be the back lake mouth drains, the fingers up here. Work all those things and just take your time working them and you'll find fish. Back down here, Port Bay, as you head toward the 188 bridge, it's back shoreline. All over here. Right now, this is all good, nice and protected. We've got that north breeze, northeast breeze. This area here really sets up well for this fishing here. We've got deeper grass beds that are in here. There's been a decent amount of bait that's working out there. Take your time when you work these. Down south, the supermodels have been good, and Chicken of the Sea, Magic Grass on this shoreline. The soft dines have been good on this shoreline. Also, the Paul Brown Original sinker has been really good. Actually, it's a floater, but the original looks like a little torpedo. I haven't thrown the Fat Boy tremendous amount, but I've been throwing more of the originals and having pretty good success production with that particular bait. Always my go-to are my plastics in the down south. Also, burner shads have been good, and of course your white ice has been good. Chicken of the Sea have been good. There's been scattered redfish that's been up and down this shoreline. There's been some decent trout that's been up and down this shoreline. Come off of this point, and again, with this water being blown out of here, you can wade this real far out. You've got a great structure on the bottom here. You've got grass and mud. All this area up in here is really good. It sets up when you got a north breeze. This whole shoreline right here sets up good for that, so you can wade it out a little ways. So that's where the Paul Brown comes in, either the original, the sinker, the floater, whatever you like of that particular one has been really good. Again, all I'm primarily throwing is 16th ounce jig heads on my plastics, so it allows that bait to really float through that water column, taking our time with it, just looking for either just a little bit of bait working, looking for pelicans diving on this, the ospreys that I mentioned earlier. Another good indicator that you've got bait present, and sometimes that's all you need. You don't have to see it. As long as you got bait that's present, there's probably going to be fish that's going to be close by. But again, all that said, just continue to work these areas really slow, real methodical. Take your time with it. When a major or minor really kind of starts to kick in for you, take your time and work it through these areas during that time frame. It can be very productive for you. And, right now it may be 4 or 5 fish, it may be a dozen fish, maybe a bunch of fish. I don't know. You just have to wait, work it, see what happens with this particular area here, and work those down souths in there, work your corkies in there, soft dines, any of those flavors that you like. Just work those areas really well. Take your time with them, and you'll locate your fish.
Thanks for watching. I'm Captain Larry Bell.